I feel so deeply out of control. I have my entire life, especially these days. I feel like there's nothing that I can control right now, and it terrifies me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think about acceptance, in some ways it feels like defeat.
Mm-hmm.
It feels scary. Like, am I just opening the floodgates for more bad things to happen to me? Hello, friends.
Hello, friends.
And welcome back to another episode of Pickles and Vodka, the mental health podcast, where we've accepted that shit just sucks right now.
Indeed.
I'm Christina.
I'm Lauren.
And we skipped an episode last week because we're going through it, which we'll talk about, I suppose. I have chosen a topic for today.
Yes. I'm excited to hear it.
I don't know. It's kind of a messy one. And by messy, I mean, I don't know how you're going to feel about it.
Okay.
Sorry, I had to vape.
What? One of us? No.
I did try to stop vaping this week.
I know.
It
I
didn't
also
last
know that
very
it
long,
didn't take. Yeah.
but I'm not ashamed of it.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to stay on track.
Yeah.
How the fuck are you doing, Lauren?
Oh, let's get right into it. So I talked about this in at least one episode.
It was the episode with Effie.
So it was the last one you would have heard if you listened to them in order.
Well, no, we did the pickle pull one last.
Oh, okay.
It was
2 episodes ago. You're right.
2 episodes ago, 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Fuck.
That makes sense because 3 weeks ago I wasn't certain and I didn't have a date, but I did mention that I was pretty sure that I had to get rid of Meatball, my cat.
When you say it like that, it sounds ominous.
Yeah, I mean, what I'd really hoped for is to find like a friend or someone who could take him because basically he's never gotten along with Pico. And when I got into this new place, then, first I gave him time because I'm just like, of course, animals adjusting to a new place. But I feel like because it was smaller and maybe because everyone was more stressed out in general, it became clear that it was impossible for the two of them to live together.
For people who don't know, Pico is your elderly dog that you've had
Yes.
for how many years?
I've had him for over 8 years at this point.
Yeah. And Meatball is...
A friend found a litter of kittens. I in no way wanted a kitten again, but I did want a cat. And because of the situation, I was just like, well, I guess I know what I'm getting into with the kitten part, and I do want a cat.
Yeah, you gave it your best shot.
Yeah, and really, we got past the kitten part, and then I thought we'd be okay, because he's about 2.5 now. But yeah, him and Pico they never got along. I think he wants Pico to be his plaything, and so,
I mean, yeah.
He does. He just, goes after him and is like, bats at him, but in a not in a mean way, in a playful way, like, come play with me.
2.5 is still a kitten.
Yeah. And Pico is, over 10 years old. He is an old dog at this point. He is like, fuck you, when he tries to play with him. And also, loyal listeners of the pod have probably heard him hacking and things.
Yeah.
And I feel like that just gets insanely aggravated when Meatball messes with him.
I've been worried about him.
Yeah, well, he has a vet appointment next week, and I'm going to bring that up for sure. So it's going to be better for both of them. I mean, Meatball's probably annoyed that Pico keeps going after him when he's like, I just want you to play and be my friend. And Pico's like, why is this thing here? So yeah, I tried for a while. I really hoped to find a friend or a friend of a friend so I could kind of keep tabs on him. But yeah, it just got to the point mainly where I was worried about Pico's health and could tell that neither of them were really happy. So I called the APA. I'm not positive what that stands for. Maybe Adoption Placement Agency? I don't know.
That sounds right.
Yeah, but it's a pretty big animal shelter here, and they seem to, be well respected and run a really good ship. Of course, they're no kill. And
of course.
Yeah. And they couldn't even get me in for over 2 weeks when I called them. They had some people lined up with availability to foster. So that's good news too. And yeah, the day was today, and he just continued to be annoying. And so for the past like 2 weeks or so, then I just thought of it as like, okay, we just got to get through this last time. And then of course the last couple days, then it was like, but it's Meatball.
I mean, even though you know that he's not the happiest he could be with you, that doesn't make it any easier. He's part of your family for the last 2 years.
Right.
You wouldn't do this kind of thing lightly.
No. It was a lot of thought and a lot of, considering both animals and kind of realizing I think both of them are going to be better off.
Yeah.
And of course, I sat down and I talked to them a lot about what he's like. And I told them I was like, he's kind of needy. If someone can be home more than me, I bet he would like, mid-aged children that want to love on him. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And, hopefully he finds a new family that will just love him for who he is and let him be his crazy self.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I kind of went through a similar situation with Owen. I mean, not exactly the same because...
No, but it was kind of like a decision. I mean, it wasn't just given. You'd split them up.
I guess it was similar in that... So I was with my ex, redacted, and I got him a kitten in addition to my 2 cats. So we had 3 cats, and Fang, my younger cat, was only like 2 or 3 at the time. So I thought he would be thrilled to have a kitten to play with. But Ruby, my older cat, she's 8, almost 9, and she was not thrilled and had a lot of behavioral problems in response. And even Fang, by the end, started getting really pissed off.
Like, why is there a kitten here?
Yeah, and I did experience some regret and guilt because I took in this life, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like a child. I'm not going to say that, but it's a responsibility.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I felt. It was like, I don't let myself feel too bad because I do know that, when I was not planning to take him in. I did not seek it out thinking like, yeah I just want to get a kitten because they're cute. I like did a favor for a friend and an animal in need. But at the same time, it's like when I agree to it, I'm not thinking just like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll take him. And if he doesn't work, I'll just pass him on to someone else.
Yeah. I mean, in that sense, you were kind of fostering him for 2 years. You can think of it that way.
It's true.
But yeah, don't feel bad about it. But you're allowed to feel melancholy.
Yeah.
Now that it's done, now that it's just you and Pico again, do you feel a sense of relief?
I think so. I mean, just like little things like today I'm getting ready to record and I was just like, oh, all I have to do is remove Pico's collar. I get to shut the door all the way. I don't have to worry about them, going nuts in the middle of recording.
Yeah, let me just say that the podcast had nothing to do with this decision.
No. Yeah, I feel like Christina felt worse about that. I was always just like, haha, you guys get to hear my animals be shitheads. Is
there anything else going on with you? Are you done?
I will say, last night, I think I had the most fun D&D session that I ever have. So that helped a little bit.
That was at Vicky's house, right?
Yes. We're totally like swerving from our usual because D&D usually have like a campaign you follow with your character and everything. And we decided for October, for spooky season, we're just doing a kind of different one and it's going to be short and everybody created new characters. So far, our setting is we are all in a masquerade ball.
Ooh. Is it like a murder mystery?
I don't know yet. We haven't gotten that far. All I know is Vicky's character tried to kill a midget, so we might be in trouble.
I feel like you can't say midget anymore.
I thought that as I said it, then I was like, I think you can say it in D&D.
I don't know.
They're all fake people.
Still. Oh my God. I've never played D&D, full disclosure. It was demonic growing up. Do you know what Adventures in Odyssey is?
No.
Listeners, hit me up if you know. It was a Christian radio show, and they did an episode about D&D, and it was terrifying.
No.
And that's all.
The basis for my character is 30% Angelina Jolie and Girl Interrupted.
Yes.
I knew you'd like that. 60% Daria, and 10% Wednesday Addams.
Goth vibes. I love it.
So yeah, I had to throw something fun in there with all this depressingness. So where are you at?
Uh, I've been shitty. When people ask me how I'm doing, I've started just saying, I'm bad.
Okay.
No notes.
Hey, I'm for it because it's honest.
Yeah, this is going to be a really honest episode. One of the reasons we took a mental health break last week was because I was just non-functional. I'm trying to think where I was the last time we recorded. I had just been denied for disability. That's old news. But like, I haven't really been able to swing back since then.
Okay.
I've been writing on my Substack about my Benadryl use and how it's been escalating. For those who don't know, I've been abusing it for the last 4 years. It is honestly the worst drug experience I've ever had. And I've had to go sober from alcohol twice.
Yeah.
Benadryl is something that like your tolerance builds really quickly. It harms pretty much every part of your body and your brain. So I've been in a really bad spot with that. And I've been honest about it with my therapist, and she's actually started seeing me twice a week now.
Mm-hmm.
So a few days ago, I ran out of Benadryl and I didn't buy more. So as of today, I am 3 days sober from Benadryl.
Yay.
And that's why I ended up buying a vape. Because I knew...
Totally fair.
Yeah, because I also am not smoking weed right now.
Mm-hmm.
I've just been really depressed and I don't have the motivation to pull myself out. And you'd think that getting off the drugs would help, but I feel it's made things worse.
I was going to say, yeah, but actually that was the first thing I thought is when you said like, I've been feeling really depressed and it's hard to pull out. I was like, well, yeah, you've got two things going on. I mean, obviously a big disappointment from being denied, and that's not going to be something you just get over the next day. And I was, thinking the other thing is the withdrawal and not having the escape anymore. Like, I hate to say it, it doesn't sound encouraging to
this is an honest episode.
People listening. But yeah, it's just kind of like if you're getting off something like that and you're quitting, in the long run, yes, it's going to be good, but it's going to be worse first.
Exactly. I didn't even know that Benadryl withdrawals were a thing, but if you've been abusing it in large quantities as long as I have, they definitely are.
That makes sense.
And it's a deliriant. It's a downer, but it also, how do I explain this? It lets you kind of escape yourself and your mind. And so I would look forward to that every day.
I can't say because I've actually never taken it at all, not even for its intended purpose.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
I mean, good. I
mean, for one thing, I generally don't experience seasonal allergies or anything like that. And, I've heard people take it for sleep and, it could have been something that I at least just do occasionally because I never can sleep. But yeah, I never have it all. But when you talk about it, I've talked about, I know on the pod a couple different times that there was a brief time where I abused, was it DXM? The cough syrup?
Yeah, cough syrups. And I've also abused that.
Yeah, so that's usually when you talk about it what it reminds me of, so that's what I think of.
Yeah, they're similar experiences, I would say. DXM is less harmful, still harmful.
Yeah, still probably not good to be taking large quantities to escape your life with it.
But it's the kind of substance you should only take it every few months and let your body adjust back, but that's not how my personality is. This is a super long intro. I'm trying to cut it short. I'm stressed out about money. I am going to run out soon and my weekend job doesn't pay enough. And so I've been having to ask for help a lot. And that's hard because I'm used to being super independent. We've talked about this before.
Do you want to move to St. Louis? Have a roommate?
Not in your apartment currently, but...
Oh, hell no.
That's the thing. I was talking to my mom yesterday. I wish there was a relative or someone I could move in with. But that would mean moving, and I don't have money to move, and I can't even think of solutions right now because it's too much work. All I can do is just not kill myself.
Totally. When you have so much else going on, then it's kind of this would be hard for me to deal with at the top of my mental functioning.
Full disclosure, I can't even stand to listen to our podcast when I'm like this. Everything seems pointless and stupid.
Well, honestly, I get a little more insight into how your week is going in general, and I was afraid that you were just going to cancel again today. So I was really glad you didn't.
To.
Yeah, I was really glad you didn't.
Yeah, we're here. We're deeply flawed, but that's just the state of things right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and yeah, not to bring up world events, but everything is on fire.
Yeah, there's pretty major ones going on.
Our country's bombing everybody.
Yeah.
There's a hurricane.
Yeah. A lot of people died from it.
A lot of people died. North Carolina, which is right next to us, in the mountains, is underwater, which I am going to start spiraling anew if I start talking about this now. But
let's just leave it at that. The world is on fire, basically, and it sucks.
Yeah. Which brings me to my topic, actually. So my topic is acceptance.
Oh.
Right off the bat, when I say that word, what do you feel?
The first thing it does, and I'm not sure why, I'm sure we will explore and get there, but it immediately put me into treatment settings. I felt like,
yes,
this is things we've talked about. This triggered something immediately. Like, what do I know about acceptance?
Well, I think a lot of people who have been in treatment settings are used to hearing it in the context of DBT, which is dialectical behavioral therapy.
Yes.
Or ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy, which I won't really go too much into those on this episode. But part of what kind of got me thinking about this was I've been reading the memoir of the woman who created DBT.
Oh.
Her name is Marsha M. Linehan.
Okay.
I hope I'm saying that right. It's called Building a Life Worth Living. Full disclosure, I'm only halfway through and I'm kind of losing interest because she talks a lot about Catholicism and that kind of turns me off.
Yeah, I feel the same way, actually.
But
I hope you're hearing Pico sleeping.
I am.
That's adorable. You better not cut that.
Oh my God.
His little dream barks. Sorry, I had to address the elephant in the room before.
It's okay. But basically, she had a very troubled adolescence. She spent 2 years in like one step below a state hospital.
It's a girl interrupted.
She self-harmed when that wasn't even a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Up until that point, all the therapists that she saw were trying to fix her behavior and fix her brain. And she realized pretty early on that that wasn't going to work. The research just did not show that that was, what's the word? I have withdrawal brain. Like, I can't think of words today. Effective. It's not effective.
Yes.
You can't hope to get better until you basically accept the way things are and the way you are. And that got me thinking about my situation and honestly your situation with Meatball this week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you had to get to a point where you accepted that it just wasn't going to work. And only then can you move forward with solutions that are actually realistic.
Yeah. I'm curious because this is something in my most recent time in treatment, and I am famous for just I've been through DBT, for shutting down, like, I hate DBT. I've learned it all, and I don't give a shit, and I don't like it.
You're not the only one.
Exactly. But I happened to be paired with a therapist who loved DBT. And I was like, oh, shit.
And DBT at its core is just like accepting that two things can be true at once.
Yeah. But she introduced me to something different called RODBT.
What?
Which I just looked it up really quick so I could remember what that stood for. And I'm not going to, spend a bunch of time looking it up, but it stands for Radically Open Dialectical Behavior Therapy.
That's funny because radical acceptance is one of the topics I wanted to cover today.
Oh,
I wonder if there's any similarities. Sorry, keep sharing with the class.
You just triggered that memory, and it's I'd like to look into more because I remember, she discussed it with me and I was like, okay, this sounds more like something I can get on board with. And I don't remember totally the difference. I do see the first thing that pops up is it says it was developed for over-controlled clients, such as patients with anorexia nervosa, chronic depression, and obsessive-compulsive personality disorder. These would be people whose emotions are often directed inward or don't emerge at all.
Gee, who do we know like that?
I know. So mainly I just
Wow.
wanted to bring that up. Like, maybe you want to like research that a little, because I remember I was much more accepting of that one. It made a lot more sense to me.
I mean, so how do we define acceptance, first of all? I think, oh my God, Alexa.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. When I hear the word acceptance, I feel a lot of resistance to that because I kind of equate it with giving up.
Okay.
Did you hear what she just said?
No.
She said, I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
Don't worry, Alexa, no one is.
Oh my God, this is a shit show.
It's funny, though, that you say that, because I thought, I was like, it immediately leaves a bad taste in my mouth, because the first thing I think of is the Serenity Prayer.
Well, yeah. Oh God, how does it go?
Is it God grant me the serenity? Is that what the Serenity Prayer? To accept the
Yeah.
things that I cannot change.
That's the only part that's applicable.
Exactly.
I mean, it has a point, I will say. As two people who struggle with eating disorders, as cliche as it is, we like to be in control.
Yeah.
It's hard to accept that we don't have control over certain things. I mean, that's in large part how our eating disorders, at least mine, developed, was to cope with being out of control.
Yeah, you find something that you can.
Yeah. And same with the drugs, like same with everything. Like
Yeah.
I feel so deeply out of control. I have my entire life, especially these days. I feel like there's nothing that I can control right now. And it terrifies me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think about acceptance, in some ways it feels like defeat.
Mm-hmm.
It feels scary. Like, am I just opening the floodgates for more bad things to happen to me?
On a positive side, the other thing that it makes me think of, which is not exactly the same, but I can see the relation, is, and this is probably why it made me think of treatment. Like, I've been in for eating disorder treatments, and they're like, think of the things that it did for you. And,
Yes.
actually, like, thank it for getting you through those times. Like, it wasn't all bad. It's bad now. And it's
Yeah,
not
but it didn't start out
sustainable.
that way.
But it might have gotten you through something that you couldn't have handled otherwise.
I mean, that is very relevant because that is a form of acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
Like accepting that this was something that you turned to for help at one point.
Yeah. And I mean, I know, like, when that was first brought up to me, that definitely helped, because up until that point, it's saying, like, I'm flawed, I'm bad, I do this stupid thing that people should know better. But
yeah,
when you kind of realize, like, no, I coped the best way I could.
I mean, for better or for worse, it is part of you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I was going to talk about denial because I would argue that denial is the opposite of acceptance.
Yes, I agree with that.
Any sort of change that you're going to try to make, like, you're going to meet a fair bit of denial. Like with the Benadryl, for instance, at first I was in denial that it was a problem. That's not a real drug. I can't have a problem. And then I was in denial that it was affecting my life. And then I was in denial that I should stop.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, I'm sure both of us, in like things that we know are not helping us, we've been at the point where it's like, yeah, but a lot of people are so much worse. I'm not doing that bad with it, even though it's
Well,
not good for me.
Exactly.
And that's denial.
Totally. And another thing that's really hard to accept is that everyone is struggling and it feels like we can't do anything, which we can't. We both have a few friends right now who are struggling a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also been causing me a lot of heartache, I guess.
For sure. Yeah.
And that's really hard for me to accept, that I not only can I not help myself, but I can't help others.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can try, we can show up, we can listen, we can do what we can, but at the end of the day, that's on them, just like it's on us.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of, you are a friend that I've felt that way about often.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, why do you think it just like 10 minutes ago, I was like, do you want to move to St. Louis?
Hey, I do have family there.
I know.
We'll talk more later because I need to get out of Virginia.
Yeah, I've kind of gathered that from talking to you.
So yeah, there's a lot of denial that I can't actually help people as much as I want to.
I just don't have an answer for that because, it is so hard. Like, denial is strong.
Yeah. Well, so one thing that I wrote down was I don't have to be okay with this, but I can accept that this is reality. And
Okay.
that has been kind of my mantra this week in light of all of the horrific news and just like everything being on fire. I feel that's the thing. That's why I struggle so much with acceptance, because in the context of, society and the world at large, when I talk about acceptance, I'm worried that people will think I'm okay with it and I'm just going to give up.
Mm.
But as you know, in the past, I've kind of had the opposite approach where I refuse to accept it, but also I don't have any solutions. And so I end up just like spiraling and
Yes.
burning out.
Yes.
And so I think exploring acceptance is kind of my way of figuring out a workable solution, I guess. But I still have a lot of resistance. And like, I don't have a thesis argument for this episode. I mostly just wanted to talk about it. And we can see like what our listeners think in a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's hard to accept a reality that is killing us. And that includes, our individual mental illnesses. And that includes, all the stuff I talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And it means sitting with your feelings.
I mean, we keep like laughing about this stuff because I know in the past, we've heard it all before and it sounds kind of corny, but that doesn't mean it's not true. That's what I feel like.
Well, yeah. And radical acceptance, I did a little bit of research, and at its core, it can be summed up as it is what it is.
Yeah, radical acceptance, I feel like that's actually the one that out of all the DBT stuff intrigues me the most, but probably because it scares me the most.
Yeah. So, okay, there's this site that has a pretty good definition. According to hopeway.org,
Mm-hmm.
radical acceptance is a distress tolerance skill that is designed to keep pain from turning into suffering. And distress tolerance is part of DBT, by the way.
Yeah.
While pain is a part of life, radical acceptance allows us to keep that pain from becoming suffering by accepting the facts of reality without responding by throwing a tantrum or with willful negligence. In other words, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And by the way, I hate that phrase.
Me too.
Because it does seem like you're kind of throwing up your hands and being like, not my problem.
Exactly.
They actually have 10 steps to radical acceptance on this site, which I won't read all of them. But basically, it starts out with acknowledging that you are questioning or fighting reality. And some people have even said on Reddit that a better term for acceptance might be acknowledgement.
I like that better.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
So, observing and acknowledging your reality and reminding yourself that you can't change it.
Because acknowledgement sounds like I'm not acting like an ostrich. I'm not sticking my head in the sand being like,
exactly,
nope, everything's great. But it's realizing like there's only so much I can do and I can't take on all the world's problems.
Yes. And all you can do is control yourself, which we've talked about at length before.
Yeah. And even that only to some degree, I feel like.
Exactly. And, there's things you can do like accepting self-talk, relaxation techniques, mindfulness, which, is all well and good. But how do you practice mindfulness in a crisis? And that's when you start, at least for me, once I realize I can't change things, but I haven't accepted it yet, that's when I start using the self-harming behaviors. Because on the flip side, like, I'm the only one that can control myself.
Yeah.
But that goes both ways.
Yes.
Like, I have the power to fix myself. I also have the power to hurt myself.
Uh-huh.
And that just, I'm trying to think like what that says. Like, is that a form of denial?
I don't know if I'd call it denial, because I feel like it comes from a place of, you start feeling like everything is terrible, I'm terrible, I don't deserve to feel good. It comes from like deserving.
Ooh.
Which that comes from, I think, way past episodes. That's a hot button word with me.
Talk about that more, because my mind is fuzzy.
No, that's fine. That was, I pretty sure that I have brought it up, and it might have been as much as a year ago, just that I have had such a tough relationship with the word deserving. I really get upset about people that say things where it's like, I've had a really hard day, so I deserve to buy myself these new clothes.
Oh, yeah.
That's the point where I just want to be like, no one deserves perks just for existing. It's just, what I want it to be is more just like, I thought this would be a nice thing for me, so I did it. And that's fine. I just don't feel like, it feels like earning to me, that it's like, I struggled, so I deserve nice things.
Yes.
No, you just can do nice things for yourself because why not?
Well, because you exist.
Yeah.
And, deserving things, this site talks about the difference between pain and suffering. I think both of us have operated our lives for many years on the concept that if we're not suffering, we don't deserve things.
Yeah, like that really resonated with me when you said that, because that's what I was thinking. Is I was like, oh yeah, I feel it. Like both of us probably act a lot on the opposite of just like, I am in pain, so I deserve to suffer. That's not necessarily true. It might just be I'm in pain and it sucks.
Well, yeah, and that is like allowing yourself to be in pain and allowing yourself to be sad and to be grieving and to be disappointed. Like I have been so disappointed in so many ways this year by our country, by my family, by myself, by the system. Like,
yep.
And I've directed it all inward. And that doesn't accomplish anything because I'm just avoiding these feelings.
As if all of these things happened because you were not suffering enough.
Yeah, but like I've been suffering.
Which, yeah, is not true.
That just proves that it's not true. What I haven't tried is accepting that, yeah, life is disappointing. And in the past, like I have family members who tell me that that's just life. And I'm very resistant to that because it's like, well, why does that have to be life?
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Like, how many times when I was a kid did I get told, like you say, that's not fair. Life's not fair.
Yeah, but acceptance doesn't mean giving up.
Right.
I think another part of acceptance that I struggle with is also forgiving myself.
Yes.
I can tell you have feelings about that.
You struck another chord. It might take me a minute to put my thoughts together, but as soon as you said that, I was like, uh-huh.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's another thing. When I say you need to accept yourself, in my mind, because I grew up in a very like puritanical culture, acceptance means permission to keep, sinning, quote unquote, and to just give yourself a free pass for all of the harmful things that you do.
For me, I think of like all of the mental health stuff because it all struck a chord with me when I was quite young. So I end up feeling a lot of guilt because I feel like I created it for myself because I thought I wanted it.
Wanted what? Forgiveness?
No, like all of the mental health issues.
Oh, like the eating disorder and the depression and everything. Oh, yeah.
Because, when I was like 10 to 12, then I was reading like all of the young adult aimed books that were about people with eating disorders and severe depression and all this kind of stuff. And it just was like, oh, doesn't it sound so beautiful and so dramatic, and people pay attention to you because things are so awful and they see you, and I wish I could be like that. And then surprise, I am. And so, 10 years after that or so, then I just start feeling like this just happened because you manifested it. You wanted something terrible and now you've got it, you piece of shit.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. It was like that with me and self-harm.
Mm-hmm.
I saw people doing it online and I was like, I want to be in pain that way. Like, I want that kind of attention. I want that kind of expression. And it's like, yeah, you gave this to yourself, so you can't possibly complain about it.
Yeah, it's like you thought you wanted this so much when you were 12, and now you have it and it sucks, but that's what you wanted, so fuck you. That's what it feels like.
that's not normal. Like, what made you want that in the first place?
Exactly. That's what took me so many years to kind of, and I guess that is maybe my acceptance is, I finally did come to a point where I realized this is how I always thought it went. So I just thought, I was terrible for thinking that I wanted this, and then I got what I wanted and realized it's terrible, and now you got to deal with it because look, you got what you wanted. But in reality, I'm just kind of if I was a 10, 11, 12-year-old and I was so fascinated at, reading The Best Little Girl in the World and The Bell Jar and all those sorts of things, then it's clearly if it grabbed hold of my brain so much, that shit was already there.
Exactly. And one thing that my therapist often says to challenge me is at some point, it just doesn't matter how you got to be this way, which is kind of controversial because, therapy is all about...
a lot of therapists look into your past and your childhood.
Which is very important.
Yes.
But at a certain point, you just need to accept that, this is the way I am. What can I do now? How do I move forward? And it is way more alluring for me to keep ruminating on it and to keep poking and prodding without actually dealing with the present. It's another form of escapism for me.
Yeah, I feel in more recent years, that's something that I've battled because I, to this day, I still do not feel I don't understand why this happened. And I just want someone to give me the answer, but no one's been able to.
The answer might not exist.
Yeah, no. At this point in decades, no one's been able to give me the answer. So I think that's where I'm at the point that you're saying, where I'm just kind of maybe I just got to figure out how to deal with it.
Yeah. So that's, I guess, what acceptance means to us. Listener, what does acceptance mean to you? I'm really curious to see what people think about this.
Me too. I was jotting down some ideas, and I mean, I know your topic was acceptance, but I was something that came to mind for Pickle Poll was actually starting out, what are you in denial about? And then what would acceptance look like?
Oh my God, I love that.
All right.
Yeah, it's going to get messy, folks.
Yep.
So yeah, next week, I think we'll have something a little more lighthearted. I think we've decided to give y'all 2 weeks instead of 1 week to answer the Pickle Poll. And in between, we'll either do a guest episode or something a little more lighthearted. Orion left me a voicemail today asking if we could do a movie review for spooky season.
Ooh, okay.
He has some ideas for movies that have mental health themes.
Good.
So we'll talk off air about that.
Okay.
But yeah, go answer the Pickle Poll and let us know what you think. Let us know if you disagree with us. I don't even know what I think at this point.
Yeah, this was just a total freeform, just I don't know that I like this term either, but I'm spitballing.
Well, yeah.
That's kind of weird.
But you know what? We don't have to be okay with the way this episode is going. All we have to do is accept
it.
We just have to accept it.
It happened.
Yes, it did. And that's Pickles and Vodka.
Yep.
Bye. If you like what you heard, don't forget to tell a friend about our podcast. You can direct them to picklesandvodka.substack.com where they can find our entire archive and also get access to our chat. We're on Instagram at Pickles and Vodka Podcast, Facebook.com/Pickles and Vodka Podcast, and YouTube.com/@Pickles and Vodka Podcast. My Instagram is @XtinaJumper and Lauren is @LaurenAFH. We'll see you next week.